Omaha's news leader. This is KETV News Watch 7's Chronicle.
It's been 15 years since Husker Athletics said goodbye to the Big 12 and hello to the Big 10. Good morning and thanks for joining us in Chronicle. I'm Bill Shammer. Since then, 6 other teams have joined the Big 10 and just 7 of the original 12 teams that were in the Big 12 are left. One of them even left and then rejoined. We're talking about you, Colorado. Today, we're taking a deep dive into the move and what's happened since, for better or for worse. First, let's go back 16 years to set the stage. It's 2010. Toy Story 3 just released in theaters. TikTok was just a song by Kesha, and Nebraska was still a member of the Big 12. Let's take it back and explain what happened to drive Nebraska toward the Big 10. July 1st marked 15 years since the University of Nebraska Cornhuskers left nearly 90 years of tradition for the financially greener pastures of the Big 10 Conference.
We're very proud to be a member of the Big 10 Conference.
But in order to understand why Nebraska would leave rooted rivalries with teams like Oklahoma and Colorado, you have to know just how volatile of a situation university leaders were in come the early months of 2010. The then Pac-10 announced their intentions to invite 6 of the Big 12's members, including powerhouse programs like Texas and Oklahoma. Eventually, Colorado left to join the Pac-10.
So official welcome to the Pac-10 Conference, the Conference of Champions.
That was June 10th, 3 days after the invites were extended. The very next day, Nebraska made their move.
This will bring Nebraska the stability that the Big 12 cannot offer.
One school leaving a conference does not break up a conference. 2 schools leaving a conference does not break up a conference. 6 schools leaving a conference breaks up a conference.
Fears over Oklahoma and Texas jumping ship wouldn't materialize, and it took another year until the next 2 teams left the Big 12. But Husker fans knew there were a multitude of reasons why the move made sense.
I think we should go to the Big 10. I think it'll be better. I think we'll make more money.
Nebraska looks up to about 10 different schools, and half of them are in the Big 10. So academically, I think it'll be a good fit.
There were figureheads and lawmakers who tried to keep Nebraska in the Big 12, ultimately leaving some bitter taste after the decision.
We like Nebraska in the conference, but now we have stability. We're in a far better position than we were 3 months ago when there was a great deal of instability.
But Big 10 coaches welcomed the Cornhuskers into the storied and tradition-based conference.
You know, personally for me, it just brings so much value to our conference. You can't buy anything like that.
Nebraska would go on to play another full year in the Big 12 before joining the Big 10 in 2011. That year, the Cornhuskers won the Big 12 in volleyball and women's basketball, while losing to Oklahoma in the Big 12 football championship game. Since then, Nebraska Athletics has captured a total of 23 Big 10 conference championships. As mentioned, Nebraska has won 23 Big 10 conference championships across the sports the Big 10 sponsors. That's compared to 64 in the Big 12 from 1996 until 2010. Highlights include 2 in baseball and softball, 7 across men's and women's indoor and outdoor track and field, and 6 in volleyball. Nebraska has only won 2 national championships while in the Big 10, both of them coming from Nebraska's 2015 and 2017 squads. Nebraska won 4 between 1996 and 2010, another 2 in volleyball and 2 in football. Big Red Zone insider Sean Callahan has covered the Huskers for nearly 3 decades. He's written 2 books about Nebraska's history and remembers vividly the Huskers' transition to the Big 10. Chronicle's Andy Kendi talked to Sean about what he remembers.
All right, Sean, let's take us back to that summer of 2010. It was a couple months before I started here in Omaha, and Nebraska got the news or sent out the news that they were going to the Big 10 Conference. Was it a surprise?
At the moment, it absolutely was a surprise because you go back to the end of the 2009 season, it felt like Bo Pelini's program was about ready to grasp the Big 12, take over the league. I mean, they arguably should have won the 2009 Big 12 championship game. And you think about it, if they win that game, like what's the feeling like, hey, you're going into 2010 as the Big 12 champions, but they still had a great team regardless going into that 2010 year. But when they found out the news that Texas and some other people had been maybe trying to create plans that did not include Nebraska, I think that changed the conversation for everyone.
What were the conversations like, from what you know now, behind the scenes with Tom Osborne and Harvey Perlman?
Well, it really started back in May of 2010. You had the Big 12 spring meetings in Kansas City, and Dan Beebe was the commissioner of the Big 12 back then. And those meetings did not go well. The media actually covered those, were in a hotel lobby kind of waiting, and people left the room very angry. So you knew something was going down, and it was after those meetings, the drive home from Kansas City, where Harvey Perlman made the phone call to Jim Delaney on that stretch between Nebraska and I-29 to tell them, hey, we're interested. Let's get this ball rolling.
And obviously, they still had time in the Big 12 that year in the fall of 2010. What was the reception was, I remember, was not good from the Big 12 offices that Nebraska was leaving.
Yeah, what I remember was, okay, May, then June, things got going, and they were in the Big 10 by that point. Then we went to the Big 12 media days in July that summer, and it just was like we were kind of the uninvited guests of the picnic.
The black sheep.
And you know, you had to go through this lame duck year as a member of a league, which, by the way, you were picked maybe to win the league that year. It was a very good Nebraska team, and you know, there were some weird things tied to their exit. Like if they made a BCS bowl game, whether it was as an automatic berth or an at-large bid, money would be taken off what they owed the Big 12. And you go back to that night in College Station, Texas, and the penalties were like 16-1 in favor of A&M versus Nebraska, and the Huskers lost the game that they probably should have won. And if they win that game, they would have got the BCS at-large bid, which would have been less money that Nebraska would have had to pay the Big 12 as part of their exit fee.
That was still one of the most charged atmospheres I've ever been a part of, that night at Kyle Field down at Texas A&M. And then, you know, you still think about it, they had a chance if they win that Big 12 championship game down in Jerry World. They had Oklahoma where they wanted to and just couldn't finish the deal.
Yeah, they had a 17-point lead on Oklahoma, and with Bo Pelini's defenses back then and the way they ran the ball, you would, in your mind, you're like, all right, there's no way they're going to lose this game because they play too good a defense, and obviously they run the ball well enough. And unfortunately, they blew the lead, and Oklahoma made some big plays to win that, and that conference championship bugaboo continues to haunt Nebraska to this day. But you could argue that 2009 and 2010, their final years of members of the Big 12, were probably their best two chances in recent history to win a conference championship, other than maybe 2012 when they were favored to beat Wisconsin, and then they were blown out in that game.
How do you view the move to the Big Ten Conference in terms of what Tom Osborne's greatest achievements are? Obviously, he did just incredible things on the football field, but can you understate how important, or overstate, I should say, how important this move was for the school?
Yeah, it was a 100-year type move when you think about what Tom Osborne did. I mean, you talk about all the plays, all the decisions he's made. That might have been his best play or decision he's ever called. And, you know, has the football worked out for Nebraska? No, we all agree, but that has nothing to do with Tom Osborne. The move to the Big Ten has armed Nebraska with every financial resource possible to be competitive, and this fan base still supports this program at a high level. It has nothing to do with being a member of the Big Ten Conference. So without the Big Ten now moving forward with what we know about college football, it's scary to think where things could be at right now when you see what maybe some of their former colleagues now in the Big 12 are battling financially.
Yeah, they are scrambling, no doubt. So as you look back, 15 years ago, Nebraska joins the Big Ten. Its 16th season as we enter. No doubt, I would think that this was a slam dunk move looking back. I know there's nostalgia in the Big 12 and people long for the old days, but I don't think there's any question that this was a slam dunk of a move for Nebraska.
Well, yeah, it's a move that anybody that's a member of the Big 12 would have taken. Missouri wanted it. In fact, Missouri thought they had the invite from the Big Ten until Nebraska said they were interested, and then Missouri ended up going to the SEC down the road. But yeah, this move for Nebraska has changed everything for them, and it's put them in a position to sit at the biggest table. And I think Nebraska fans, that's what they want. They want to be at the highest level of everything.
Great conversation right there. When we come back, don't miss out on our interview with Nebraska's Deputy Athletic Director as we discuss how this move has impacted Nebraska women's athletics. That's coming up on Chronicle.